You enjoy podcasts. We know because you're listening to one. Hi, I'm Jason Falls, the executive producer of the Marketing Podcast Network. We love podcasts too, so much so that in addition to providing you with the great episode you're listening to, we also help businesses, brands, and even individuals produce their podcasts. MPN Studios offers podcast consulting and production services to help you get you or your business its very own podcast. We've helped dozens of smart people, advertising agencies, and brands develop podcasts. All you do is record your content or interview. We take that and deliver a professionally produced audio or video episode complete with show notes, transcriptions, and even promotional clips to use on social media. And our monthly subscription prices are hard to beat. If you or your company are jonesing to have your own podcast to establish thought leadership, drive business leads, or just have fun talking about your business or topic of choice, we'd love to help. Learn more at marketingpodcasts.net/studio. That's marketingpodcasts.net/studio. You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Heather Eck hosts an amazing show called Your Radiant Spirit. Heather, tell listeners about the show.
What if the colors you're drawn to, the creative urges you ignore, and the quiet intuitive hits you brush off are actually trying to tell you something? Your Radiant Spirit is the podcast that helps you listen and live with greater clarity and purpose.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find and subscribe at heathereck.com/yourradiantspirit on marketingpodcast.net or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
Welcome to Your Radiant Spirit, a space for the conversations and colors that help you see yourself more clearly. I'm Heather Eck, an intuitive artist and guide, and I believe your soul speaks in the ways the mind can't always put into words, through color, energy, and the stories your body holds. This show is where we explore those messages. Through personal stories, deep conversations, and creative insight, we'll uncover what's been hidden, release what no longer serves, and begin to imagine what's possible when you live in full alignment with who you're meant to be. What you hear here is more than inspiration, it's an opening, a chance to feel the shift that could change everything. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's step into today's conversation.
I am so excited to be back here with you, my friends, on Wednesday. I have a phenomenal guest for you today. She is Glory Kartaoui. She grew up inside a religious cult for the first 26 years of her life. This conversation is wild because every single facet of her existence was controlled, and what she experienced in that place, the abuse, the captivity, the loss of identity, would have broken most people. But Martha did not break. She chose the path of healing. And over the last 14 years or so, she has done the deep, painstaking, and courageous work of healing her mind, body, and spirit. And now she walks alongside others who are ready to do the same. We talk about how trauma lives in the body, what it means to reclaim an identity you were never allowed to choose, and how she found her way back to a faith built on love rather than fear. There's a moment in this episode where she describes sitting on a bench outside a church, feeling truly held by God for the first time. And I got tears in my eyes, and I think you might too. This is a conversation about real freedom, and I'm so excited for you to listen to it. On a second note, in the studio, I am doing a release on July 15th. It is one of my first art releases in forever. The theme of this collection is called Drawn Towards the Light. So if you're somebody who also feels like you're in a place where you just can't see it, but you know it's there, this collection is going to speak to you on a deeper level, just like Martha's story. So pop on over to heathereckstudios.com, subscribe to be a VIP collector, and you'll get access to see the collection 24 hours before it releases to the public on July 15th. I hope you enjoy this episode. As always, any questions that you have, just reach out and ask my friends. I cannot wait to hear what you think of this one.
Martha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you. I am so happy to know you and to be getting to know you through this podcast. I'd like to think of these as like little coffee chats. So we're just kind of connecting, learning about you. I want to hear all about your background, how you got to where you are today, and also how your work is out there in the world serving people in a really powerful
necessary way. So I know a lot of people hate to answer this question, but tell me about you. How did you get your start? What led you to where you are today?
Wow, I'm going to give you the Acorn version since we only have 30 to 40 minutes. Because it's a long story, but the short and the long of it is I grew up in a religious cult where every facet of my life was controlled from birth to age 26. And when I say every facet, I mean I was named by the cult leader, not by my parents, just like every facet, what we ate when we went, everything was controlled. So I in that first 26 years experienced so much abuse, whether that was physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual. I experienced just unimaginable abuse and trauma. And so I finally make my escape at 26 and I enter this world that I know nothing about. I enter this world of like freedom but I didn't know how to be free because I was
Yes.
chained to my past. I was chained to the trauma of the abuse and of all the things that had happened to me. And it was very hard to navigate because I had no tools. I didn't even have I didn't have self-respect, self-awareness, self-confidence, self-esteem. I didn't have any of those things because I had been basically a trained programmed robot by the cult. And so I didn't have freedom of thinking, freedom of choice. I didn't know what that even meant. And so I was navigating from this place of a very scared little girl. And I just created chaos everywhere I went, even
Mm.
though I was free, because I didn't know how to be free. So fast forward, my life implodes, my physical body starts to break down in my early 30s, and I wake up one day and go, is this all there is to this existence? Is this all there is to life? Like, who signs up for this? This sucks, right?
Mhm.
And it really put me into this tailspin for a couple of years of like, if this is all there is, I don't want this. Like,
Mhm.
this sucks. Like, all the things that I've been through, and now I'm free and I still can't be free, right? But I didn't understand what was going on in my brain, in my nervous system, in my body. I didn't know, right? So I end up in this somatics class for continuing education because I'm a therapeutic massage therapist by trade. And I was also working a corporate job as an administrator for physical therapy clinics. And so I had this great job. I'm gifted as a massage therapist. I had a great side gig going. And from the outside, it looked like I was thriving, but inside, I was absolutely a chaotic mess. I was constantly fighting with myself. I was constantly fighting with all of the noise going on in my head and in my heart and in my body. So I end up in the somatics class for continuing education. And the teacher said something that ended up changing my life. And that was, did you know that trauma is stored on a cellular level in our bodies? And
Mm.
she was referencing the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And I literally was just like, what did she just say? Like it hit me so hard. And I was like, this is what's wrong with me. And prior to this class, I had spent the last 2 years bouncing around the Western medical system of, going to neurologists, going to gastroenterologists, going to pain clinics, going to all of these different or going to all these different specialties because they were trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I had intense migraines, I had gastrointestinal issues, I had fibromyalgia, chronic back pain, chronic neck pain, all of these labels were put on me by all these different specialists, but nobody looked at me from the big picture. And if you understand there's not a pill to fix trauma. So when they
Right.
kept throwing a pill at me, they kept throwing another exam at me, kept throwing another, specialist MRI or colonoscopy or all of these things, none of these things were fixing me. And so I was feeling like this defeated, hopeless mess because nobody could tell me what was wrong with me and why I was in my early 30s and my body was breaking down, right? So I'm in this class and she says this, and I'm like, this is my answer. But I don't even know who to go ask how to get this, right? So I started doing my own research. I started going and pulling my own articles. I started reading. I started Googling. I started going to the library, checking out books. I started finding holistic modalities that were in my community that I could ask questions of, that I could try. And slowly I started peeling away the layers of what this thing was, which was this big shadow that had been hanging on me, for all of those years. And I started peeling it
Mhm.
away, and I started healing. I started healing physically. I started healing mentally and emotionally. And so as I started to uncover the self, right? And tune into self, because I had never known who I was. I had never known my identities. All of my identities had been put on me, right? Had been told that I was. I had never chosen an identity, so I didn't even know what that meant. And so I really started tuning into self and starting to heal the wounds of that little girl that had started being abused at age 7, right? And that's what I've been doing for the last 14 years, is healing that little girl and healing through all of the things. And I released over 100 pounds in the last 12 years that I've kept off. I have no chronic issues any longer, none. Um, I healed my body physically, I healed my body emotionally, spiritually. I had to heal me first before I could step out into the to what was being called for my life, right? My purpose. Um, and so now that's what I'm doing. So I went through this evolution of I had to heal, then in order to elevate and evolve, and now I get to serve from that place of healing and evolution. And so what I do now is I am a trauma informed coach. I have a coaching program. I also have a coaching group. And I walk alongside people that are ready to take their next step on their healing journey. And I just help them realize they're not alone. They don't
Mm.
have to do this alone. I did it alone, and it sucked, and it took me a lot longer than it could have or should have, and I wasted so much more money than I would have or should have had I had the resources. And so now I just want to give back. I want to serve, and I want to help others find their identities, their true identities, their soul identities, not the ones that they've
Mhm.
taken on because of their abuse or their past.
Man, Martha, thank you for sharing all of that. That is an incredible story, and I have so many questions. I was taking some notes. I was thinking about um, number one, how did you know? You said you were born into this cult until you were 26 years old. Like, what point? I'm sure there were many points along the way where you thought, this doesn't feel quite right. I'm pretty sure this isn't okay. But what was the point where you said, actually, I know I'm in a cult now. I've got to make my way out of it. Was there anything in particular that happened that triggered that for you? And then how did you start to make your way out of that energy?
So, Heather, that's a great question. And I have to say, I absolutely, without a doubt, did not know I was in a cult until I had been out for many, many years, because you
Mm,
don't know what you don't know. So, I
right.
had no idea that other people didn't do what we did. Right. I had no idea because I had nothing to compare it to. I had never been to a traditional church. I had never been to any, right? Like I didn't know. And so I didn't know it was a cult until I was in my 30s and I really started healing. And then looking back, I was like, holy crap, that was a cult, right? Like,
Oh, wow.
so I didn't know. So the reason why I made the choice to break free again wasn't because I had this aha moment of you're being controlled, you're in a cult. No, it wasn't anything like that. The reason I broke free was because I had been basically held captive against my will for 8 years in the compound with the leader. And I was working for one of the cult-owned businesses, and my family had slowly been leaving. Like my brothers and sisters had slowly been separating themselves from the cult. And I missed my family. I missed my sister, especially because I have a sister who's 18 months younger than me, and we had always been best friends. We had always shared a bedroom our whole entire lives. And the 8 years was so lonely without her, without my family. And so I found her on the internet and I started talking to her. And I realized like I miss her. And what happened was she had gotten married and she had found out she was pregnant, and she shared with me that she was pregnant, and something went off in my head and said, you have to go home to be with this baby. Like you
Mm,
have to get out of here. And that was my reasoning, was like, because I did not have aunts and uncles or grandparents growing up in the cult, because if you were in the cult, you weren't allowed extended relationships with people that weren't in the cult. So I didn't know my grandparents, I didn't know my aunts and uncles, I didn't know my cousin. And so something, when my sister said I'm pregnant, something said, you want to be an auntie. You don't want
mm,
to grow up the same way that you did without your aunts and uncles, without your extended family. Like this child deserves you, deserves to have an auntie. And so that was my reasoning, was like, it wasn't like I had this aha of like, I'm gonna, break. No, it was, I want to be an auntie and I miss my sister. And that gave me the purpose, that gave me the courage, that gave me the like will to be like, I will do whatever it takes to be home before that baby's born, because I want to be an auntie. I want to be a
hmm.
sister, right? And that's so my niece is now 20 years old, almost 21, and I get to be an auntie, and I got to be an auntie. I was here before she was born, and I call her my reason, because she was the reason that I got the courage to leave. And so,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's incredible. You had mentioned this is a religious cult that you were in. So how, because I know so many people have religious trauma, even if they aren't associated with cults, that they get taught these things that they are punished for, or the Bible or the scripture is used as a weapon against them. And so they have a hard time sort of reconnecting back into faith. So what is your relationship now to God or to the universe? How did you kind of come back to that?
Yes. So that's another very good question. You're good at this, Heather. It's like you should do this or something. Um,
I'm just curious.
um,
I'm curious.
Yeah, so we were brought up on the Old Testament. So everything was fear-based, everything was weaponized, right? You'll pay for your sins, your sins will find you out. Brimstone and fire are your end. All of those things. That's what I was brought up with. I was not ever taught about the grace, love, and mercies of Jesus or the Lord. Like we weren't brought up with that. It was Old Testament, because you can't control people with love, you control people with fear.
Hmm.
And so I ran from the Lord for a long time after I left the cult, because I was mad. I was mad. I felt forsaken. I felt like, if there's a God, why would God let these things happen to me at the hands of a religious person? Because I looked at Cult Man as a prophet, or as that's what we were taught he was. And so I was like, if he's part of, like, him and God are in cahoots, like, why would I want anything to do with God, right? When
Yeah.
all of these things have happened to me, that I've been starved for 5 months, that I've been beaten till and broken bones and no medical attention, that my head's been shaved because I tried to run away, like all the things that he did to me. Why would I want that God? That, right? So I ran for many years, and eventually, when my life imploded and my body was breaking down, I ended up finding my way back to faith. And I think it was out of desperation, because
Mm,
once again, I felt so alone. I felt alone in my pain. I was married. My husband tried to be present for me, tried to love me, but there's something that no human can fill. It's an emptiness that happens within us, and that no human can fill. It's God's place. And so it was in that desperation that I was like, God, if you're real, I need to feel you. I want to
hmm.
experience you. And I started praying this, like, if you're real, show me, like, show me. And I was showed very clearly when my husband and I got in a big argument, and I went running, and I went outside and went running, and I was crossing streets and going down sidewalks. And I ended up literally ending up in the front of a church that I had never been to, I'd never seen. And that's where God met me at like 7 o'clock on a fall day. And I looked up and I saw this sign that says, "Did you know Jesus loved you?" loves you. And I just started bawling. I was like, what are you talking about? Jesus loves me. If Jesus loves me, why am I in so much pain?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little wooden bench outside of the fronts of those doors, and I sat there and just cried. And I cried from a guttural place of that forsaken feeling
Mm.
and that feeling of like, how can you say you love me? And this is how I feel. And it was in that moment that I felt the biggest embrace that I had ever felt. And I just felt held. And I heard God say to me, you ran from me. I've always been here. You're still alive because I've been here.
Oh, wow.
And I just sat with it was me and the Lord, and I was just held in this embrace of just that love, and that emptiness that I had always felt was suddenly full. And it was like, this is what it means to be loved. This is what it means to feel loved, right? And me and God just had this conversation about, you know, that the things that happened to me in the name of the Lord wasn't the Lord, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like I don't know how long I sat there. I can't remember all of the conversations. I left there with a sense of peace I had never experienced in my life. And from that point on, I started sneaking out of my own house to go to church every Sunday to that church because my husband worked second shift. My husband was Muslim. I was nothing, right? And I started sneaking out and going to church, and that's how I started building my faith. And within a month or so, my husband noticed a difference and was like, he's like, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to keep doing it. I was like, well, actually, I'm sneaking out and going to church. And he's like, keep doing it. Because there was something changing in me, because I was starting to feel loved, because Sammy, my husband, couldn't fill that void that
Right.
God was meant to fill. And so I was allowing my faith to be built, that love to be felt, right? And that's how I found my way back to God. And so then over this last, now it's probably been 16, 17, 18 years, I've started to ask myself the hard questions. So all those hard questions of what my belief system was or what I was programmed to believe in the cult, I've had to ask myself, is this truly what I believe? And if it's no, then I discard it. If it's yes,
Mm-hmm.
then I hold it sacred. And I had to go through every belief system around God to choose what resonated with me, right? And so, and as I started to learn that God was not just the Old Testament God, there was a New Testament God, right? And this whole
Uh-huh.
new world opens up of love and grace and mercy and forgiveness. And you're like, hold up, I was gypped. I never learned, right? And so now I have come to a full understanding that feels in alignment with who I'm called to be and who I know God to be in my life. And that's how I found my way back to faith.
Oh, wow. I know you've told me that story before, but today it really got me. I got emotional hearing you say that you felt this overwhelming sense of love and peace, and then the Holy Spirit just wrapping you up in that feeling to say you're okay. And what a gift to be able to develop a new relationship with God, one that isn't wrought with lies and things meant to make you feel controlled. What you talked about your experience as a massage therapist and your body work there. What's so interesting to me about that work and your epiphany about the body keeping score is that I think, if you talk about Old Testament, Moses was on the side of the mountain for 40 years waiting for his direction, right? Like I believe that we spend time in an area that is meant to offer us something in the way of our purpose, in the way of our mission, or in the assignment that we're given in the season that we're in. We were talking before about shedding and getting rid of things that don't serve us right now and moving through that. But what's so interesting about your time in massage therapy is that you spent time with the body. You spent time on the body. And you probably were feeling emotion and pain and various things that were coming up for people that then it's sort of embedded in the work that you
Yeah.
do with people now. Can you tell
Yeah.
me, like, what was, I'm getting chills just talking about it, what was
Yeah.
that sort of,
So that's so interesting that you ask, Heather. Nobody's ever asked me something like that. But so as soon as I put my hands on the first body, my teachers told me the students when in massage school told me there was something else, there was something special about my hands. My hands just were different than other people's hands. I didn't have to learn. My hands just knew, right? It was a knowing. So you're absolutely right. And it goes back even further than that. Like my dad would tell you that when we would travel to the cult on the weekends, it was a 4.5 hour drive one way and 4.5 drive home. I would rub his head or his shoulders or his neck and use my hands because it kept him awake, but it also felt so good. I would take away his headaches or his neck pain or his shoulder pain. My hands just knew at a very young age, right? So I knew I had a gift in my hands, but I didn't know that gift was from God, right? Like I was just like, oh, I have smart hands. That's pretty cool, right?
yeah.
But as I started using my hands and opening up my gift, right? I started feeling too much and I shut it down. I was like, nope, no, 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 no. I don't know, right? So for years I shut it down. Because I didn't want to know. I didn't want to hear, right? I had like
Yeah.
and so when I started this healing process though, I was like, oh, this is what I was feeling when I shut it down. I was feeling their stuff, right? And so as I started this healing journey, I started opening myself back up to intuitive healing. So that's
Mm-hmm.
really what I do now with massages. I'm an intuitive healer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm never going to offer if you don't ask. And I have the ability to shut it off unless you ask. But if you ask, then your body will tell all of the secrets,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I can hear it, feel it, all of those things. And so, yes, it has opened me up to a different level of therapy and of intuitive healing because of my own experiences, right? But I'm also I've learned how to be very cognizant of guarding myself from that stuff because if you're not careful, you can take on other people's stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've learned my boundaries and understand what that means to be a healer.
Wow, that's amazing. I love that so much. I love that so much. I think that that is something that, like you said, your body will reveal the secrets. And that's something that I try to help people understand through art and color too. There's so much that lies beneath the surface that when you can just start to excavate it a little bit, then you can start to heal it, but you have to start to kind of get in and say, what's actually happening here? How do we understand it, and how do we start to pull it out so that we can begin to heal it without judgment? And I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like you just have this energy of a judgment-free zone. Um, you've seen it all, you've experienced it all, and you sort of hold this beautiful space for people to heal. Tell us about you have some really powerful communities and containers that you offer to help people who've experienced things
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. So the first one is about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, God was like, it's time for you to really start serving. And I was like, but I am serving. I'm a coach and I'm an author. And God's like, no, 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 like for real. I was like, okay, what does that mean? So God put it on my heart to create a trauma event or a trauma healing experience. And so last year in September, I put on my first live trauma healing event. It's called Unbound. And Heather, when I tell you it was nothing short of just God's providence and the things that happened in that room for your first event to have 47 people like is unheard of.
Wow,
And
yeah.
I felt so honored and privileged that people trusted me to come to my container that God had created with me for this event. And so that is, I'm going to do it this year again in August 21st through 23rd of this year, which I'm super stoked about. And God is like, okay, like you did it in 2025, but this year is bigger, better, and bolder. So get ready. And I'm starting to learn what that means because I'm trusting I'm trusting what God is calling me to do, and I'm stepping boldly into that, and it's amazing. And so that is an in-person event here in Raleigh, and it'll happen in August 21st to 23rd. So then a kind of another avenue off of that trauma healing, people were coming to me and saying, once a year is not enough. We need more of this. Like, this is so good. This is so exciting. And this, I've learned so much about me, but I need more of this. And I don't have the capacity to do one-on-ones all day, right? Like, there's just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And it also, as you know, can get really, really exhausting. And so I created this group called The Collective, which is a trauma healing group that we meet every Monday at 7 p.m., where we, as a group, talk through fear, talk through abandonment, talk through brain chemistry changes. We talk about rewire. We talk about anything related to healing from trauma. And the group it's just been so good for me personally, but it's so good for all of these other people that get to be part of it, and they weave in and out, right? So sometimes they're there, people that are there every single week, and then there's some people that come for 3 or 4 weeks and are like, okay, that's what I needed, and then move on, right? And so
Hmm.
it's just this beautiful container of people that are really taking their healing seriously and want to do it with others. And so it's been a blessing. And then, of course, I do one-on-one coaching as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that community component is so important because I think especially too during the pandemic, there was this epidemic of loneliness and disconnection. And so being able to sit in a space with people and share together is, I think, one of the most healing things. For people who are listening who know that they're carrying trauma but feel overwhelmed by the idea of just getting started,
Yeah.
what's one thing that you offer or can share to help them believe that that first step is necessary?
So the first thing that I would offer is stop telling yourself the lie that you're alone.
Mm,
Alone is actually a choice. And I went through this for so many years, almost feeling like a martyr, like I had to carry this all alone. And that was a lie. I
mm,
wasted so much time. And people don't have to go through the exact same trauma to be able to hold space for one another, right? Because trauma is trauma, pain is pain. And so you don't have to have been in a cult to hold space for me to heal from sexual trauma, physical, mental, any of the things that I've been through, right?
yeah.
Same as for others, is like whatever the worst thing that you've been through that you're struggling with, I promise you're not alone, because pain is pain. We've all experienced it, right? So my first thing is, like, you have to stop lying to yourself and telling yourself you're alone, because alone is a choice. And so, um, but also showing up is a choice, right? And the first thing you get to do is show up for yourself and love yourself enough to know that you're worthy of healing.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. Showing up for yourself is so important. And I think it's something that we take for granted. I think, a while ago, I said to somebody, like, I feel like life is like 99% just showing up, like just being there, just doing the thing, just making an appearance, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, the just being there, the showing up part is so meaningful. And it really does impact what happens next. And
It
so,
does. It does.
I think that's so true for anybody listening who, who is afraid of that. Just show up in whatever way you are. Just come as you are, no judgment. Even if you don't want to turn your camera on, even if you just want to sit and listen, but
Yeah.
just being there, I think reminds you that you're not alone.
Yes. I say that all the time in the collective, right? In the group. Like, there's some people that don't turn their cameras on because they're not ready, but
Hmm.
they're hearing and they're showing up and they're making that investment of time, energy, money, right? And they're showing up. And osmosis is a real thing. They're getting something from it, whether they turn their camera on or not. And they're showing up every week, what tells me they're getting something
You're
from it,
getting
right?
something. Yeah.
So yeah, come as you are, and just show up. Just show up. And eventually you'll be like, okay, maybe I'm ready to contribute something. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to turn on my camera. So I love that you brought that up because I see that every week.
Yeah. I see it in my therapeutic art classes too. It's you don't have to show up. You don't even have to draw with us if you don't want to. Just come and sit. Just close your eyes and be in meditation for just a few minutes and relax your body. You're gonna like the osmosis. You're gonna feel it whether you actively engage or not. So tell us about you've got an event coming up this year in August, you mentioned. Tell us about that. And then how can people sign up or learn more about you or work with you?
Yes. So my event is August 21st through 23rd in Raleigh, and it's called Unbound. And you can find all of the information on our website, which is www.unboundcommunity.com. And you can buy tickets there and also read all of the information about it. But you can also just DM me, PM me on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And I'd love to have a conversation because that's the best way to really learn more about the event. But it's a trauma healing event, and there will be lots of one-on-one group workshops. There'll be also one-on-one a time for you to be able to speak to a modality that speaks the best to you with our coaches and our therapists. It will be transformative, I promise, because God's in it and God don't do
Mhm.
anything half-assed. So just
That is the truth. I love it. Well, I think that God definitely brought us together. I'm so happy that I got to meet you, and I'm so happy that you're so close. You're right in Raleigh, which is really, really nearby, which is awesome.
yeah.
So I will share all of this information in the show notes. And then, is there anything that you want to leave the listeners with that just reminds them that they've got a beautiful, radiant spirit?
Wow. I was just having this conversation with somebody else yesterday, and I say this to my students all the time. I wish that you could see yourself through the lens that I see you, right? Because I see everybody now from my own healing lens. I see what they're capable of. I see through all of their past, throughout their pain, through all of the stuff that they're hanging on to in their backpack or they're dragging along in their big sack, right? I see
Hmm.
past all of that and I see how God sees them, pure love, pure radiance, pure, right? Like I don't see their trauma identity. I only see their God identity. And so I just say, I wish that you could see yourself through my eyes, through my lens. And what that means is see yourself the way God sees you,
Right.
perfect and wonderfully made in his image. And so that's what I would offer is just how does God see you? Perfect and wonderfully made in his image. And everything else goes away because
Hmm.
when you teach yourself to live from that space, life is beautiful. Life is beautiful.
Hmm.
And so that's what I would offer.
Oh, thank you for that. That was beautiful. I love that. Such a perfect reminder. It's one of those things that I tell people too when I do a portrait for them. I'm like, this is you. You are gorgeous. Look at your radiant spirit. You're colorful and sparkly and wonderful. And I think we all could use that reminder just to know that we are made in God's image. And, you know, apart from that, what else do we need? Apart from that, right? I
Oh,
love it.
I
Well, thank
love
you so much for being here with me today. I'm so happy I got to chat with you. You have such a calm, gentle energy, and I've just loved being in your space today. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Heather. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on Your Radiant Spirit. Every conversation here is an invitation to go beyond the surface, to listen to what your soul has been whispering, and to step into the life you've been longing for. If you're ready to go deeper, to work in a way that's personal, creative, and profoundly transformative, you'll find ways to connect with me in the show notes. Whether it's through art, a guided session, or a fully immersive journey, you'll discover a space where your truth is seen and your next chapter begins. If this episode spoke to you, it would mean the world if you shared it with a friend, left a review, or subscribed so more people can discover the conversations we have here. Until next time, my friend, keep noticing the colors, the moments, and the nudges. They're all leading you home. And for now, take a breath, hold on to what resonated, and carry it with you into the rest of your day. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.